Oh, that was spicy. Welcome to, I guess, episode 1. Trust me, I had every intent of doing this video somewhere else, like at a cafe or a park. The cafe I was going to go to, the recycle said they closed at 8. Apple Maps said they closed at 9. I pull up, they closed at 6. So then I was like, okay, I'll just get this. I'll try Lebanese food. There was a food truck right there. I'll still record because there was an outside area. Homegirl forgot the whole SD card at home, so I had to come home. So we're doing this at home because I wasn't gonna come home, get the SD card, drive back. No. Looking at my iPad because I had planned this whole series and talking points because y'all know I get off track. So let's eat some Lebanese food for the first time and have a talk. If you don't know who I am or what this is, long story short, my name is Jinx. I'm 21. I just got out of my most toxic 4-year manipulative relationship ever. And me, my friends, my community, and my therapist think this would be a good way to cope and help others, which is what I'm all about. I'm all about educating people, making sure people feel like they're not alone, and just telling my story in hopes of this will give you some comfort. And just to prove I had every intent of sitting there, I'll wear an outfit. Y'all know me. I don't do this. So today is, as the title says, coming to terms with the end. And I know that sounds backwards, like why is that first? I feel like you can't really start healing until you accept that this is done and that era is behind you and you need to start to move forward. First step is admitting. So I kind of wanted to talk about, hold on, I gotta unwrap this. Good. This is why I didn't want to do it at home. The first part is why it kind of all ended. I know I briefly touched on it, but we were butting heads 24/7. It was always a tit for tat, who could make who the maddest, and I felt really manipulated and abused and taken advantage of, and we couldn't have a conversation about it. He never wanted to talk about it. It'd always be flipped, stuff like that. Also, I was tired of getting played and cheated on and being told, you're my end game, I love you, but because you won't give me this or because you won't do this, I'm going over here. And then the last straw was I felt sexually assaulted, and basically I told him, and one day it was, I'm so sorry, I feel like a scum, I can't believe I wasn't even thinking about you, I'm apologetic. And then I went to his mom, not to get him in trouble, but because she felt like my other mother. She had like parental ship over me during high school. I told her everything, I told her anything, and she never really had a bias. She would hear both of us out, and he called her, she hung up, she didn't talk to me. Then he switched the story and said I did it. I said I came on to him, I did this, that, the third. And then he said he only apologized not because he believed it was sexual assault, but because he had a girl and felt like it was disrespectful to her, and he's sorry that I feel that way. And then he said, well, you kept in contact, so it couldn't have been that bad. I kept in contact, this is true. He had stuff that he was supposed to come over and get, so I kept in contact because we were trying to schedule that. But also, this is something that's happened in the past, not from him, but that's just the way I was kind of wired when it happened in the past. Was you act like nothing happened, you keep in communication, you act like nothing happened. And he knew this because 4 years he knows everything. So that for me was kind of the last straw, was you turned it on me, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. And it kind of hit hard because it was like the fact that he did it, the fact that he knew me, the fact that we've been through everything together. He's known my whole history, his mom knew my whole history, and this was the response I got, kind of just like did it for me. So that's kind of how it ended. but I feel like it ended way before that. I would say about 3 years in, I had got tired of the cheating and the lies, so I started talking to other people, and I started kind of just like trying to find myself. But it was like the more I would break away from the manipulation or the control and stuff, it was we're getting into arguments. The more that I like, the less I'm reacting, the more argumentative it got, and I felt like I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything, I felt like a prisoner in my own home. I felt suffocated, I felt unheard, I felt unseen. I felt like at that point I had lost my best friend, I had lost my partner, I had lost myself. And that's kind of like when I started therapy and I started talking to my therapist about everything. I stayed because we also lived together, and it's really hard to break away from something like this when you guys live together. It's like this is your shared space, you see them every day, and it's kind of hard when you can't have that conversation. This is really good. Like how I gathered the strength to even start this series and even start telling my therapist and diving into the trauma and telling my friends and reaching out for support. Now the hard part, talking about how I took it. So when things first got rocky, year one, I won't lie, this was no like one day thing. Like this wasn't like, okay, I'm done. It took a while. Like I said, it took about like a year. And when I say like fresh out, I mean like I just cut communication with him Friday, which was December 2nd. Okay, this was not easy. This took a while. Pause. I want to give a trigger warning. Please jump to this time. I'm about to get into a talk about, and then he said he wanted me to fake who I was to get along with his best friend. I was being called his ex's name. He got drunk, said his best friend was his soulmate. There was a lot going on. Year one, there was a lot of cheating, or technically not cheating, because we were talking. But the way it went down was I thought we were exclusive. He said we were exclusive. He went to go mess with someone else. And then I was like, what if I did that? He'd be like, I'd be mad and I'd stop messing with you because we're supposed to be exclusive. So technically not cheating because we weren't dating. Whatever. He was going to his exes. He would call me and say, I made out with her. I had sex with her. And then when I would bring it up the next day, he'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just so high. I was just trying to make you mad. I only kissed her. He was sleeping with people when I was in the hospital. And then I would just throw myself into work. I would just work. I would take as many shifts as possible. I would join as many clubs as possible. Like I would do anything to keep my mind off of it. And as it got worse, I wasn't really cool with my family and I didn't really have friends because I had just moved back to Texas. So I didn't really know what to do. I didn't really have anyone to talk to. And the excuse would always be like, oh, you know, like I have Asperger's, so like my social cues are off, or like, oh, I was super high, or oh, I was super drunk. And I didn't know what to do, so I started drinking a lot. I was downing like mad bottles of Southern Comfort. Anytime someone wanted to drink, I was there. I'd go to my friend's house because I know their parents would let me drink, and then I'd come back. Keep in mind, at this point, I lived with him and his family, so I know I could drink there. So I'm just drinking. So now let's more so talk about how did I get here today. I was introduced to tabs. They're a psychedelic, and I was doing tabs probably like 3 times a month. I was doing tabs anytime I could afford them. I was just tabbing away. It was more than necessary. It's more, first of all, I mean, it's not really legal. You guys shouldn't do it. But it's more than what you're supposed to do anyways. And I was just that on top of drinking, on top of smoking, on top of overworking myself, on top of not sleeping. I just did not want to deal with it. So at first, that's how I coped with it. That's how I just was like, okay. Like I was mushing my brain so much to the point that I wouldn't even allow it to think about what was happening. Like, we'll think about anything else but what is happening right here, right now. So now let's more so talk about how did I get here today. I told the truth. I told my therapist, I said, this is what's happening. Please tell me I'm not crazy. I feel like this is unhealthy, but I love the kid. I'm 3 years deep. I feel like I can't leave because I've put so much into this. I don't know what to do. She was so supportive. She listened. She was unbiased. She was like, personally, I don't think this is healthy for you, but I'm here to support. If you want to stay, you stay. But I don't think you should. And that's that. She would tell me like, this is unhealthy, but you know, let's try this to cope instead of the drinking and instead of the drugs. And so I did them less. I did end up doing them less. She was so supportive. She listened. She was unbiased. She was like, personally, I don't think this is healthy for you, but I'm here to support. If you want to stay, you stay. But I don't think you should. And that's that. She would tell me like, this is unhealthy, but you know, let's try this to cope instead of the drinking and instead of the drugs. And so I did them less. I did end up doing them less. But once again, I did stay for another year. Honestly, it didn't hit until the whole sexual assault thing. But probably a month before that happened, I met 2 people in Austin because I didn't know. I moved to Austin. I had no friends. I was still throwing myself into work. So that was the only thing I had was work, but I didn't have work friends. I didn't talk to anybody after work. It was still only him. At this point, I had moved him to like best friend status. That was it. There was no more like sexual connections. Like sexual connections died probably like year 2. But like even the romantic feeling, it was like, I have love for you and I want this because I worked so hard. But it was like, I knew it wasn't gonna happen. So he had met them. They had seen him in person, they had met him in person, they had hung out with him, and before I tell them anything, they're just like, I don't like the way he talks to you, I don't like the way he treats you, this is kind of weird. And I had no one ever tell me that because my mom told me, my dad, but I wasn't really close to them, so I kind of was like, what? And he'd be like, no, your parents are just like hating, your parents just like this, that, third. So I'd be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So when they told me, I was just like, wow, and it kind of clicked. And talking to my community, a lot of them, I still haven't told them who it is, but nobody else could say anything because, to be honest with you guys, all I had was YouTube and Twitch. So nobody sees this on Twitch, nobody sees this on YouTube. Like, they see me, but they don't see what's behind the scenes. So for these people to see like how he interacts with me and how he talks to me when the cameras are off, it's very different. And around him, I didn't have a lot of friends. Like, I lost a lot of friends throughout these 4 years, which also made it harder because it's like, I lost XYZ, like I lost all these people to make this work. Like, what did I throw this away for? If you know what I mean? Talking to them, and the biggest thing was they told me, they said, hey, we've been through this. And when they started telling me their stories, I thought about it and I was like, okay, so it does get better. It's everything he says isn't true. This isn't as good as it's gonna get. I can get out of this. I can heal from this. I can be happy. I can go back to being independent. Because before him, I was very independent, and the codependency, it scared me. It scared me to think, what do I have? Like, I had stuff. I have like everything to furnish my house, but I just felt like if I give up on this, I'm giving up a part of myself, and I just couldn't do that. I wasn't ready. And so they sat here and they were like, they were brutally honest, because although my therapist was honest, there is a limit, of course, of like what she could say and how honest she could be. And so they were like, no, like, you need to understand this is effing messed up and this and that. And like, they would be like, well, what about this? Or why do you act like this? And I would tell them, and I would think this stuff is normal in relationships. Like, I thought this is how relationships go. Like, I've always been around toxic relationships, so it kind of just like, I just thought this stuff was normal, and I see it and I'm like, that's not normal. And it really opened my eyes. And then I met someone who, like, I've met a few people who have treated me better, And it was just like, that stuff's not out of reach. Like, you just have to remind yourself there is better, even if it's not with another person, within yourself. That's it. And I promise y'all, talking to someone is so crazy. Like, if anyone needs to talk, please feel free. You can message me on Instagram, you can message me on Discord, you can message. I have a friend who lives in Africa. Cool, she's 7-hour difference. That girl will send me voice memos. My best friend Barry, she will call me at 2 a.m. Please know that you guys can reach out to me, because I'm telling you, it makes such a difference when you can talk to people. It really does. But long story short, if you didn't get the gist, that's how I got here. Being able to speak my truth, being able to reach out to those friends and have that freedom to say, I'm sorry, I'm not asking you to take me back. You don't have to take me back, but this is what happened. Can I talk to you? Make sure that the person you're talking to, though, has the mental capacity for it, because not everyone does and not everyone understands. But once you find your people, it's just like, you need to do this. Like, this is it. You need to take the steps for yourself, because who else is going to take them? You know what I mean? And the final thing that was it for me, like, I know I'm talking in circles, sorry editors, but the thing that got it for me, there was a night where I had relapsed, and one of my friends was here in person, and I like relapsed, and I just crashed. The ex had said something to me, and I just cracked. Like, I fell to the floor, and I just was like bawling, like unconsolably bawling. I was like huffing and puffing and hyperventilating, and I couldn't get anything out, and I relapsed. The bottle, the tabs mixed. I relapsed, and I'm on the kitchen floor, and I'm like passing in and out. It's like my head's hitting the oven. He's sitting here with me, you know, calls my other friend. She's on the phone. She's talking to me, and it's late at night. She has work tomorrow, and she's like, no, like, I'm not getting off this phone until I know you're good. And I mean, I was as good as I could be at that point. And so I come in the kitchen, and I'm just still crying, and I'm just like, it's just bad. And I wanted nothing more than to call my dad. And like I said, I'm not really like that tight with my parents. And so I call, and it's so freaking late, y'all. It's like 10 here, so it's like 11 where my dad lives. And he answers, and I'm just like crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry I woke you up, this, that, the third. And my dad's a very cold person. And the one thing he said to me, though, like through everything, he was being so brutally honest, and it was like low-key hurting my feelings. But he goes, baby, you gave him 4 years. I go, yeah. He goes, he hasn't changed. I go, yeah, it's getting worse, Dad. He goes, so you give him 4 years, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep using that excuse, so then what? You're gonna give him 10 more years? 10 years he doesn't change, but now you can't leave because what, you're invested in 14? Like, if it's not getting better with 4 years, why would you throw more into it? Like, it's like gambling where you just throw more, and it's like, you're losing it all. So why are you going full in? You know what I mean? Like, you're not hitting the jackpot. He was saying so many things, and I just was like, I really needed to hear this. And I like that's just lived in the back of my head. It's just like, I gave 4 years, I got nothing out of it. And he got a new girl, and he started hanging out with the old friends that like told him, they were like, oh, we're using you and this new girl, like they don't have much in common. And like, there was a lot to it, but he gave them everything I asked for. 4 years. I had to plan the dates, I had to pay for the dates, I had to buy the outfits, or he would come in holy shirts and holy pants, and they invite him places, and he has new outfits, and he's doing his hair, and he's looking nice, and it's like he's paying. And I was like, this is everything I wanted for 4 years. Like, he's sitting there, he's talking to them like dumb stuff. I begged him to go to karaoke. He said, no, it's stupid, I'm not doing it. He goes to karaoke first week back with their friends. He's taking the girl to museums and eating out, and this is stuff I begged for. I begged for us to paint together. And it kind of clicked. It's like 4 years. I gave 4 years, and I couldn't get none of that. And they gave you a week. They gave you some punani, and that's it. Like, like those two things had clicked for me in that moment, and I was just like, yeah, all right. My therapist said it today. And I had already told myself this, and I told Chat this because I was telling them on stream. So if you guys want the sneak peeks, I'm gonna make a spam account or just stay late on streams. Anyways, shameless plug, you get it where you get it. The friends helped now. If anyone would have said anything to me, which they did 2 years ago, or like at this, from year 1 to like halfway of year 3, I couldn't be told nothing. People were telling me, that's disrespectful, he's using you, that's really mean, like you shouldn't be dealing with this. Like people were telling me this, and like I felt it and I saw it, but I was not ready to leave. You have to want to take those steps and leave. I really didn't hit to the second half of year 3 up until now. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah, no. Like I want to find a way to break away from this. I want to like be done with this. Pros and cons, I will say, don't tell people everything if you don't think that you're ready to accept leaving, because a lot of times that is when people get fed up, where it's like, if you heard your best friend saying, my boyfriend beats me and my boyfriend does this and he's like financially abusing me and he's this and he's that, you'd be like, girl, leave him. But then if she kept going back, you'd be like, at this point, what are you telling me for? What are you asking me for? So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, am I ready? Like, you know, and I'm not saying go to cold turkey. I didn't go cold turkey, but I did slowly start to tell people more, and I slowly stopped being like, I was defending this kid. I was defending this kid to the ends of the earth, okay? I was like, no. So you have to be ready to take that, because it hurts. It does hurt. When someone's talking about the person that you love like that, all you want to do is defend them. When someone's kind of like, for me, it felt like people were coming at my character, and I was just like, why would you say that? Like, I felt belittled. I felt dumb. I felt like people were like looking at me like, girl, are you stupid? Like, why would you stay? But once I got that out of my head, that's when it kind of became easier, and that's when I was ready to hear everybody. Long story short, you have to be ready for change before you open up to people, because sometimes people are not going to be as receptive and as understanding and as supportive if you keep going back. So be ready, then reach out fully. Ready for yourself, good support system, you got this. That's what I was trying to say. So last point of this video, kind of where I want to close it, bone on top if you will. What am I doing now to kind of remind me why, and kind of make coming to terms with it easier? Like, what am I doing not to occupy myself in the sense of pushing it down and avoiding it, but what am I doing to make it easier to cope and remind myself that it will be worth it? I'm going back to college. That has always been a thing I've wanted to do since the minute I left college. That's been a thing I wanted to do. If you guys don't know, I'm a child psychology major and I want to minor in criminology. I'm doing that. I'm getting back into my streaming. I'm getting back into building my community. You know, I really just want to focus on getting out and stuff. I want to basically do everything that I had begged him to do for 4 years, whether that's by myself or whether it's with my new friends or what. I constantly tell myself, I know this is about to sound cocky, I list what I'm good at. I'm like, no, you did do that. You started this club in school. You did this. You got here. You did this by yourself. You did this at a young age. Like, I have to remind myself, I did this stuff. That car out there that I bought with no cosigner, I did that. My credit score, I did that. I have to remind myself small stuff, like they wanted me to cosign. The furniture in our house was like 90% my stuff. Like, I built this, I picked the house, I scouted this, I did a lot, and that's what I have to come to terms with. And I realized I gave it all I could give. I gave it my 100. It made it so much easier, because at first I was like, oh, I'm being a bad girlfriend, I could do this, I could do this. There was nothing else for me to do. There was nothing else for me to do. Now I kind of just think like that. That's kind of the mindset I have. It's just like, what would I tell my best friend Barry to do? Or like, what does everyone else see? Because everyone else is like, oh, Jinx, like you've done a lot. Or like, oh, you were so productive. And I'm just like, no, I haven't done enough. And it's sitting there and appreciating myself instead of thinking about all those negative thoughts. I want to replace them with positive ones from myself. Killuminati said, don't seek validation from people that ain't valid. That's what I want to leave y'all here with, okay? That's what I want to leave y'all here with. Remember, it's you. You do this. This is your life. This is what you want. This is, live it how you want to live it, okay? Don't seek validation from people that ain't valid, bro. With that being said, thank you guys so much. I'm so sorry that this was so long. I do hope that you guys stick with me throughout this series, throughout this journey. Talk to me in the comments. I will be replying But thank you guys so much. If you haven't tried Lebanese food, I think you should try it. Eventually, I will get out my house. Eventually, not all videos will be in my house. But with that being said, peace out, Girl Scouts. Bye.
1, 2, 3, funky.